This is Emotional Evolution. I'm Joel Cross. Welcome to a sacred space for inner exploration that expands our self-awareness as we discover how what we feel supports who we are becoming. How's your heart? Take a moment to breathe in deeply. Tune into your heart space and notice what state of being you're in. Now breathe it out, soften and let go as we set an intention for our time together. May you be available to witness what you've never witnessed before about yourself so that you might heal and grow. Hello, beautiful souls. This episode is an Ask Me Anything. I invited you all to share whatever questions and curiosities were alive in you. And I left it open just to see where your hearts were. And what came back was the full range. Some lighter, everyday questions about me as a person, and some that point to the deeper philosophy of life and values. And so there were about 30 questions, and I was able to put them into 6 different clusters. And today I'm going to try to get through the first 3, and there will likely be a part 2 to this Ask Me Anything. And it's so interesting reading your questions because I've been sharing for several years now. And it's easy for me to forget that many of you are new to me and my realm and my journey. And so before I go any further, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for following along. Thank you for supporting this journey. And thank you for trusting me with your questions. Okay, so let's begin with some of the lighter questions. Someone asked, are you living rural these days? How long have you been traveling? And are you going to keep doing it for a long time? Well, before 2020, I was living in New York City. I was married and was slowly realizing I was in a relationship that was misaligned with who I am. And as many of you know, as highly sensitives, living in a busy city like New York and being in a relationship that isn't working, when you wake up, there's a lot you'll have to face. And so, going into that dark night of the soul, I began to return home to the truest wisdom I know, which is the still calm knowing, the heart, the intuition, being self-guided and self-led. And that knowing led me to honor a pull to travel during the middle of COVID. At that time, I was a full-time musician and songwriter. And of course, during COVID, there's not much work for musicians, to say the least. And so this honoring of this call to travel led me towards an RV. It came up in my meditation and deep seeking. I'd never owned one. I'd never even been inside one. But in this season where life was extremely challenging, I knew that my way to freedom would only be found through honoring what was naturally emerging from within. And so I bought the camper and ended up traveling the country as a nomad full-time for about 2 years until I found some land in rural Arkansas that felt deeply resonant. I know many of you may be wondering, why Arkansas? And I was wondering the same question at first. But I felt so much resonance and peace when I went to visit this land. And that was enough for me. I didn't need an answer. So I purchased the property, trusting my intuition, and moved there. Later, as I discovered astrocartography, I found out the land sits right between my Sun and Mercury lines, which, in my understanding of that framework, is essentially the geographical location that supports you feeling more at home within yourself and with teaching, sharing, creating, communicating, which clearly is what most of my life is about these days. I've been there since 2023 and had a good 2 years without any real travel. I needed a break after being on the road for so long and enjoyed being outside of the city, watching the deer and the rabbits and other creatures roam around the land and the creek. But since last summer, when I turned 40, I was ready to get back out on the road. And so I've been away since last summer, traveling through Colorado and Utah over to the West Coast, Northern California for retreats, and Washington State to celebrate 50th birthday of a great friend and do some co-creating of music and meditation. And I've just been exploring, and I'm currently slowly working my way back towards Texas to see family and eventually home, probably right at the start of summer. I love rural living, and I love being away, out in the wide open spaces. And I remember reading something in my Gene Keys that spoke to feeling really alive and vibrant in wide open spaces. And I'm sure that's correlated with my empathy or clairsentience, my highly sensitive nature. But I love that it gave me the freedom to honor, or rather the validation to honor what was arising in me. Okay, next question is, what is your favorite place in the world? And honestly, it's my little 20-foot travel trailer. I love getting to take it across the country and into the backwoods and still have a sense of familiarity, my own creature comforts, my own space, while getting to explore and experience myself in a new context. But really, I don't have a single favorite place. I love so much of our natural world. I'm in a state of awe whenever I get to walk a new trail, explore a new country, or step into a new corner of the earth. Okay, next question. This was a fun one. What do you think about the sky? I tend to spend a lot of time looking up. It's a practice of reminding myself how small I am. And even more often, I'm fascinated by the sunrise and sunset, each one unique in its own right. Every morning and evening looking for the nuance and detail. It's become a sacred practice of reverence for what's beyond me. Source, the divine, God, creation, and the practice of remembering that even though the sunrise and sunset are patterns, and we can often write them off as the same, it happens every day. If we look deeply, they aren't ever the same. The coalescing of the clouds, the weather, the temperature, placement in the sky. There's so much beauty in it all. And it helps me to also be present to the freshness in each and every moment in other aspects of life. So, those are my thoughts about the sky. All right. Favorite music, food, hobby, plant, and animal. Animals? It's got to be birds. I've always been fascinated by flying. For as long as I can remember, I've had dreams of flying, maybe thousands of them throughout my lifetime. And when I had a spiritual awakening in 2021, I remember walking a trail and feeling like I was truly hearing birds for the first time. I found myself in uncontrollable laughter and joy as I was struck by the beauty of the song, by the uniqueness of each bird's voice, by the rhythm of it, and the sensation of the frequency as it moved through my body. It pulled me into a deep remembrance of our connected nature and the power of presence and the mystery of the sacred that is behind it all. Hobby. Honestly, it's just being a seeker. I'm fascinated by our world, and I tend to not just read a book, but be in curiosity of the practice of creativity. Not just the words that are chosen, but why were they chosen? And from where did they come? And it's the same whether I'm reading a book or listening to a podcast or practicing meditation. In almost every activity, I find myself seeking the truest, most natural expression of my soul and other souls, as we are all dynamically expanding and changing in each moment. And it's the same when I'm hiking or practicing walking meditation, or when all of those combine alongside photo journaling. I take a lot of photos of anything that strike my awareness and elicit a sense of joy or curiosity. Favorite food? I am a vegetarian, and honestly, I tend to have a lot of pancakes. I really enjoy having pancakes, usually with some fresh blueberry and banana and maybe some granola or like chia seeds or flax seeds if I have them available. And favorite music, it's got to be jazz. But more so, I'm drawn to anything that makes my soul sing, which leads me to a broader array of music. So I listen for frequency, I listen for the vibration of the artist and the voice when it's saying. So I love most kinds of music, but I always come back to, as someone who studied jazz guitar in school at my time at University of North Texas and University of Houston, I go back to my classic players like Wes Montgomery, Joe Pass, George Benson, Grant Green, and Borelli Legren. And who doesn't love Motown? Okay, this next group of questions are more related to my journey. And so, first question someone asked, how's your heart? And I so appreciate being asked this question, as you know I ask you all daily. And at this moment of recording, my heart feels full and expansive, deeply grateful for the gift of exploration and the first-hand experience of the world. I feel open, full, and abundant. And lately I've been pondering success, and I feel very successful. And to be clear, success is defined for me by honoring the wisdom within, aligning with it through action, and meeting every soul with the reverence and the remembering of their sacredness and worthiness. I'm very happy to say my heart feels whole and worthy and liberated. Okay, next question. Have you always been an enlightened soul shining your light in love? What was your journey like as a highly sensitive person? Did trauma teach you how to get into alignment? Great question. Let me start with a bit about my journey. I grew up in a big family, 8 kids, 2 happily married parents. My parents have now been married for over 50 years. Shout out to mom and dad. I love them dearly. And I'm the 7th child, the youngest brother, with 3 older brothers and 3 older sisters and 1 younger sister. So it was quite interesting growing up in our small 3-bedroom house. I shared my room with my 3 brothers, and my sisters were all in another room. And of course my parents had their room. So in those tight quarters, we grew up quite religious. My dad's a Southern Baptist preacher. And there was a lot of energy in the house and strong attachments to that Baptist tradition. I didn't realize it till later, but I carried a lot of religious trauma that disconnected me from my sense of self, that made me believe a lot of things were wrong with me, simply because those things didn't align with the way Christianity presented the world and framed our humanity. Trauma that squelched my voice when I had questions or wanted to explore other fascinations I had. There was also, of course, the common family trauma that comes with being a younger sibling, a sensitive, an empath, a shy introvert. I remember having several dreams where I needed to say something and I couldn't speak. In some of them I was practically yelling, but no words, not a sound was coming out. And that was my experience of myself, feeling unable to find my voice I remember always asking the question, when is it my turn to speak? There were so many loud speakers around me, very attached to what they believed. And so for me, as an Enneagram Type 9, the peacemaker, my deepest fear being separation and loss, I really struggled with that because I felt, of course, we know in our modern age, right, this trading authenticity for belonging is a common issue I would say the majority, if not all of us, face. And so for a long time I practiced what the Buddhists call idiot compassion, which I think many people pleasers will recognize. It's where you betray yourself, dishonor yourself for the sake of the family or loved ones, just to keep the peace or the illusion of peace. I later realized I had done the same thing in the place where I found the most joy, with music and the guitar. Even in that realm, I had betrayed myself because I was showing up in my music career at that time as a version of a musician that I thought would be acceptable to others. I was seeking external validation. So, to the question, have I always been very loving and very sensitive? Well, yes, I have always been those things. I don't actually know that I'm enlightened. I just care. And I've learned a lot through my practice. And did trauma teach me how to get into alignment? It certainly did. I realized that chasing all the templates everyone else wanted to hand me and carrying the deep harm I'd experienced only takes me further away from my joy. I learned that nobody can tell me who I'm supposed to be, or how I'm supposed to be, or what's really right for me, because nobody has access to my inner world and my inner makeup. So taking the time to slow down and really sit with myself, I was deeply empowered by a question Neil Donald Walsh poses in his book, Conversations with God. He asks, is what's normal natural? Are they the same? And in this powerful book, where he is journaling and receiving what he frames as transmissions from the divine, that question landed for me, really resonated. And it's the first time I realized I was trying to be quote unquote normal, but I was nowhere near operating in what was natural for me. And I was so far from it, it took me a long time to reclaim myself. I had to go through a lot of intentional experimentation, inner work, therapy, and somatic practice to allow myself the experience of my own naturalness. Okay, next question is, do you think you're brave? So interesting. I hear this word brave associated with me in comments or direct messages I receive from many of you. And I can understand how you might frame your experience of me that way and how I share. But honestly, it doesn't cross my mind very often. I don't think I've ever thought I want to be brave. I'm not striving to be brave. What I think about is all the moments where I faced my fear and all the ways fear made me shrink, how it felt in my body, and that I never wanted to feel that again. In my experience, my greatest joy has always lived on the other side of my fear. So I wasn't ever attempting to be brave. I just knew joy was on the other side of facing what was troubling me. And I still believe that. I know that to be true. The pursuit of joy and peace is what brought me face to face with those fears and gave me the anchoring and the clarity to stay present to them. To know that if I do this well, I can move through it and find a greater capacity for joy. Is that bravery? I don't know. I guess you get to decide. Okay. This last grouping of questions I would call spiritual foundations. And so the first question here is, what spiritual principles are foundations for you as you are now? And I'd interpret this as, what principles are foundational for me in this stage of my journey? I would say curiosity. Many of them are tenets of Buddhism: beginner's mind, non-attachment, compassion, seeing the God in everyone, seeing the sacred in everyone, seeing the worthiness in everyone, and in moments of judgment or misunderstanding, remembering to offer myself and others grace and to try again. I think the tendency with the idea of principles is to create a masculine rigidity that is very prevalent in our modern society. But I found for me, while I am not a Buddhist by any means, the wisdom within Buddhism offers a lot of the wisdom and the freedom and flexibility to meet life with the more feminine integrity, which can expand and contract, open to meet the moment, and kind of dance with life. You know, to use the cliche like Bruce Lee, be like water. Being able to dance with all facets of our existence without losing who you are. And knowing that you're so much more than any rigid structure could contain. Okay, next question. Do you believe things happen randomly, or do you believe in fate? Honestly, I don't believe in either as a fixed truth. I try to take life objectively. I return to my own understanding that I am the one making meaning of everything that happens. I am the one making the decision, and in many cases I don't really know the full story. And that gives me the liberation to hold several stories and not just one. How I usually process my experiences is simply to be aware of my own mental activity. So the usual arc is I might begin with activity around the idea of randomness. Like, oh, where did that come from? That was random or unexpected. And then I might search for the spiritual symbolism. Like if I come across an animal on the trail that I don't see very often, why did it come in this moment? What does that animal symbolize? And as I look up resources online, I don't take it as the law about what this animal means. I just notice what resonates within my being as truth, or a great remembering, or something that felt like a blind spot that I might want to pay more attention to. And I just try to follow the threads of how the information lands in my field. Then You can think in terms of soul connections with lovers and friends and other people you collaborate with. And those can feel fated, as though we were designed for one another for this season or a lifetime. And sometimes it really does feel like fate. I personally don't hold on to any one of those interpretations. I go inward and notice why I'm believing that, or why that truth might resonate, or rather that idea might resonate. But then I ask, is it true? And what's the usefulness of holding this one idea and letting it shape my experience of this person or this animal or whatever it is? And what am I trying to prove to myself or learn in this moment? And the reason for all this is because ultimately I don't want to outsource my power, which is why I let go of any single answer or story. And remember that I am, in every moment, the one creating meaning out of what I experience. So for some, it resonates to believe in randomness. For others, it resonates to believe in fate. For me, I like to remember that I am a co-creator in every moment, whether it's someone I feel deeply aligned with and love, or a random rabbit crossing my path on a trail that I've walked before. I think all of those can be true, and none of them can be true at the same time. Ultimately, my intention is to settle into a posture that allows me to be present to what is most useful for my alignment, what helps me answer my calling into love, into sharing the truth that wants to emerge through me, or into meeting whatever difficulty I'm experiencing with compassion and grace that fosters greater joy, peace, and emotional evolution. Okay, question is, can you believe in Christ consciousness and not be a Christian? And what's the difference? This is an interesting one for me, and something I've only in recent years really come to terms with. As someone who spent the first 20 plus years of his life as a Christian in that tradition, when I let go of Christianity as my main connection point to spirit, for a while I had a big avoidance to the tradition because of my own trauma. I would hear people speak to Christ consciousness and I would avoid it. And a lot of those terms around Christianity were quite activating for me for a season. So as someone who doesn't use that language very often, I'll give you my take on it. But ultimately, I'd encourage you to dig deeper and create your own meaning and see how others are using it and what resonates for you. So what I would say, in my understanding of Christianity, coming from my Southern Baptist experience, is that Christianity is about a devotion to a singular path of connecting. There are many different denominations and interpretations within Christianity, but that's usually how it's defined. And people who speak to Christ consciousness believe that the teachings of Jesus are congruent with the teachings of the Buddha and many other great spiritual teachers who have walked the path of awakening. It speaks to the universal wisdom present in all spiritual teachings. Christ is one of the many great teachers, and in his consciousness there is an alignment with higher consciousness. And I'd say if you want to explore this a bit more deeply, I'd recommend a book that really helped me in understanding this. And it was Living Buddha, Living Christ by Thich Nhat Hanh. And maybe more succinctly, I would say that Christianity is exclusive and Christ consciousness is inclusive. Hope that helps answer your question. And the last question I'll answer today. Someone asked, what from nature is the healer for all things, or of all things? And, well, I think nature itself is the healer of all things. I don't know that I have a more specific answer than that, but I love this statement that I heard from India R.I.S E, which I believe she heard from her mentor. And the statement is, nature is the effortless aligner. Nature is the effortless aligner. I find that so resonant and beautiful. Because as I evaluate my own journey with nature and what I can witness in just about anyone I cross paths with, when we want to anchor ourselves in moments of reactivity, we try to connect with nature. We try to get fresh air, or be near the water, or see a beautiful view. And of course, from a holistic standpoint, there's so much medicine and healing in herbs that we choose, and even in our diet when we're conscious of what we're putting in our body. So nature itself in all forms is the healer of all things. And frankly, we are also nature. And I think when we are in alignment with ourselves, then we also become a part of the collective healing, which is why I'm always asking you, how's your heart? It's a easy and simple gateway to return home to your own heart. And in those moments when you need some support in your alignment, just connect to nature. I just want to say thank you so much for your questions and your energy and your curiosity. It's such a gift to connect with you all and explore these things with you. There are several more questions to answer, and so stay tuned for part 2 of Ask Me Anything. If anything from this episode resonated with you and you're looking to explore your inner realm more deeply, I have a free 30-minute guided journaling session for you. It's day 1 of the R.I.S E Journal Challenge I hosted last fall, and I feel called to offer it to you. You can find it at asoulcalledjoel.com. Just look for the section that says Free Guided Journaling. And if you'd like to support this work, the easiest way is to subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcast, or Spotify, wherever you're listening. Rating and reviewing the podcast also helps immensely. As always, honor what resonates, and be well, beautiful souls. Much love.